Early voting for the November election is underway in Texas. We spoke with UT students from different backgrounds and experiences about where they fall on several high-profile national issues and how they plan to vote in the presidential election based on their stances. The first topic discussed is how COVID-19 has affected the economy, the federal government's response, as well as its influence on what presidential candidate students will ultimately vote for.
I think that as a whole, I think as a nation, we kind of have to band together and just kind of stick this one out and just kind of aggressively just shut down, just so we can be sure that hey, we can eradicate or at least really lessen the harm that the coronavirus causes, so we can not have to keep dragging this out and seeing our economy kind of go into this free fall that we've seen lately.
While we decide or debate if there should be sort of lockdown based off COVID, I think we shouldn't ignore the economy completely, because of course, that's where a lot of people's livelihoods come from. However, I don't think we should make it our absolute top priority when deciding if we even should lock down or not. While it's important for businesses to keep going, we shouldn't risk that at the expense of people's health.
I believe that the complete lockdown of the country, especially after we started getting more information, was a mistake. I believe that it was better to try to isolate the at-risk population, like those over 65, for example, or those with other pre-existing conditions.
I don't think completely that this is something where, we have to have something crammed down on us. So, for example, a national mask mandate, I don't think that'd be constitutional, first of all. And second of all, I don't think it should be necessary. I think we should live in a country where people are responsible enough to actually take care of themselves and others.
I think the coronavirus pandemic has showed us a lot of systemic failures within our economy on who it's built to serve. So for instance, we've had one $1,200 stimulus check that didn't even apply to everyone in the country. When people were losing their jobs, being evicted from their homes, they were unable to work.
The policies that we've done right now have gone a little bit extreme. I applaud the university for originally giving students the option. So for those who didn't want to come back to campus, them having the all online option, I do applaud the university giving that. But I was not a fan of the fact that all my classes were moved online, because personally I am not a good online student.
Many universities have opened, and a lot are facilitating mass spreads of disease. And what they've done is tremendously failed to protect their students in the interest of profit, in the interest of alumni, in the interest of football, and things along those lines.
I think carrying this over into next semester would be a mistake. Since people our age are not really dying or having, serious problems with this virus, I think, reopening college universities is an okay thing to do. Whether it's a matter of safety for the professors or teachers, I think that's, where the debate is.
A lot of people often use the argument, I think, especially students our age, where they're like, oh, I'm young, I'll be fine. I'm like, okay, maybe you will be, but what about maybe your neighbor or the person who's picking up your trash? What if they're immunocompromised, but they're an essential worker? What about some of the older people that you might be around our community, and especially considering how COVID disproportionately affects BIPOC community members as a whole, specifically in an area like Austin, where that's a lot of the surrounding community.
Because the pandemic is something that crosses over state lines, it's a national issue, it's absolutely something that they should be intervening with, providing guidelines for health.
I think that the government's role could have been a very educational one, trying to get the information out there. But the whole draconian forced shutdowns definitely didn't help. I think the government should have played a more informational and guiding kind of role, not a do it or else.
We should have been more aggressive on an executive level of our government to ensure that we have proper shutdowns of facilities, and also recognizing that, different people, especially different communities, are compensated effectively for the lost revenue they're going to have.
I think we were able to, really exercise the ideas of federalism in a proper manner. Seeing that, Governor Abbott made a mask mandate happen, but maybe another state didn't. Each state is equipped to work in its own capacity, however they see fit and however their population sees fit.
We should have had mask mandates from the beginning, in my opinion. If we had a cohesive shutdown, I legitimately think we could have minimized so much of the tragedy that has occurred from this virus.
The way this administration has handled COVID has been completely irresponsible. They've done nothing to help save American lives. As anything, it's caused more deaths. If anything, we've seen over 200,000 deaths.
Now, as for helping out with the medical stuff and the medical supplies, I will say, in my opinion, the federal government reacted late. But once they got their reaction to start, it was proper.
I think they have failed us grossly. I do hold them responsible for the lives that have been lost. You know, those recordings came out where Donald Trump said he knew that this virus is airborne and he knew how devastating it was going to be.
President Trump did what he could with the information that was given. I think that President Trump's reaction was very much in line with how we were getting conflicting information, especially at the beginning of the pandemic. Dr. Fauci, for example, was anti-mask at first, then he went to being pro-mask. Had a very high death rate, probably close to 6%. Now we know it's less than 1%.
The current administration has approached the virus in almost a satirical way of naming it the Chinese virus and stuff, which I think automatically imbues a spirit of kind of hatred and discriminatory racial practices inside what people consider the virus, and also calling it a hoax as a whole until he got it.
Right now, even the president himself has COVID-19. He's 74 years old. He's going to be one of the people that is at risk simply because of his age. So I think that if the president can get through this, people my age will start understanding that, they don't have to panic and they can respond instead of react to what's going on.
Joe Biden, if he were to become president, he would handle this pandemic a lot more better. First of all, he actually believes in science, so he would listen to our national experts, and then actually contributing to the World Health Organization's efforts in finding a vaccine.
If we have the right economic framework that we had under President Trump, we can see a faster recovery once COVID ends. But if we return back to the more Keynesian Obama policies, or even go further to more FDR or even AOC style policies, I don't think we will recover nearly as fast.
I'm voting for the Biden and Kamala administration. That ticket as a whole, I think, more represents my belief systems and is going to do a better job in handling a lot of the issues that we've seen in our country moving forward.
For United States president, I'm endorsing President Donald J. Trump. The reason that is because his economic record before the pandemic itself was outstanding. A lot of people don't like what he tweets and all that sort of stuff. And, I don't think that's how we should define a president. I think his record and his policy measures should be how we define a president.
I'm voting for Joe Biden. I genuinely think we need just some cohesive leadership in this country. And I honestly don't think Joe Biden's plans are ambitious enough. I don't think you'll find a young person who looks at Joe Biden's policy and is yeah, that's radical enough for what we're dealing with. But I think it's a start.